Good evening and welcome to Side21, and this is a brand new series here at Side21 where we talk all things TTRPGs. My name is Hunter Grunman. Today we are going to be talking about player characters, and I would love to introduce our friends that we have in the call today, starting with Hunter Douglas. You may know him from all of our other content.
Hello.
All right, we also have got Gossip Curl in the call.
Hello.
And finally, Brayden, the newest member of the Jungles of Paldir campaign.
Hello.
All right, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This one is about player characters, so I think we'll start by talking about what makes a good player character. What do you think is the one trait that makes, that's the best for a player character to have? What is the one trait that makes the best player characters?
Player character in general is a little broad, because I would say, if you're talking about, say, a good aligned one, keeping in mind that this person wants to do good or wants to have, this, positive, outlook on things and, goals in mind when you're making decisions for them. And I mean, really the same, I guess, for, if they're evilly aligned, it's what is their objective, keeping that in mind. So I guess keeping the PC locked into their goals, and it often I think can lead to really compelling decision making and just story in general.
Right, and that's one of the things they say about acting, I think, in general, right, is you have to know your character that you're playing's objectives, and whether that's big, life-changing life goals, or even, micro, objectives in the moment. Definitely keeping that stuff locked in makes really good player characters. Yeah, what do you think, Goss? What do you think makes a good player character?
This is just my kind of hot take. I think comedic value as a character, as you're developing your character, because when you're playing, it can get really stressful. It can get really overwhelming sometimes, especially in the middle of combat. And so sticking true to your character and having those funny little antics or quirks or whatever, I think really makes the character kind of come to life and helps with the dynamic of your other players. But I mean, you could go with a really crazy build if you wanted to. You could go with anything, but for me, I always loved a good laugh, so that's how I always try to feel makes my characters. But I mean, that's just my own hot take.
Have a little fun.
Have a little fun.
Yeah, I mean,
Be a character who just burps all the time. You never know. I don't know.
I definitely think it for sure depends on the table, but for me, definitely having a party full of super serious, no comedy whatsoever doesn't sound like a good time to me. How much backstory is too much backstory?
The writer.
I was going to say, that's tough. I love to write a backstory.
Called out.
As a DM, I think there's an art to it, right? I think a really well thought out and detailed backstory is awesome. But I think there can be a point where if you define it too much, you don't leave a lot of room for new stuff to happen, for interpretation. Hunter played a character in our previous campaign, the Black Hand of Fate, who had very little knowledge of their past as a whole. And I thought that was, as from a DM's perspective, that was awesome, because I got to really play with that character on such a different level, I think, than a lot of player characters that I DM for. So that was sick. But yeah, so leaving things open, I think, is also good. So I think can be as long as it needs to be, but as long as there's some room for interpretation or nuance, I think is good.
Yeah, Vorn was really cool in that aspect. I know we talked about it before Black Hand of Fate, and it was kind of with Reborn, how are we going to do the whole memory thing, blah, blah, blah. We'll just kind of work it out together. But I think it was pretty, I mean, it was less work for me, so maybe that's a factor, but, generally that was just a cool way to do that, because it was just around any turn I could find something out about my character that I never knew before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that character didn't
That was
even know
really cool.
his real name, which
Yeah.
it's wild. So getting to and also as a DM getting to reveal that stuff is awesome, and it makes for great storytelling too. So,
Yeah.
what do you guys think about building PCs to fit the campaign versus having a campaign that can just roll with any player characters?
I always
Thoughts,
make
feelings?
a character based on the campaign, like, and like starting from ground zero of like, okay, this is the atmosphere, this is what we're looking at, let's create something. And I think it's more fun that way because you can get so creative, you can make it fun, you can make it like, you can make the craziest character if you wanted to. I was in a campaign once where the campaign itself evolved around the characters so much that we kind of lost sight, and that's just based on experience. But like, I start from, okay, what's the setting? I'm gonna make the craziest character, and
Yeah.
I always thought that that was the best way to play it. But I mean, that's just my hot take.
I think like it depends, but like generally speaking, I guess say that you can tailor your character at least to a small extent to like theme with the campaign. I feel like it would, there's exceptions for sure. Like we're gonna do this one, and you guys can make whatever character, and it's in this La La Land dimension where anything can happen. You know what I mean? But D&D, anything can happen. But generally, it's just like I feel like it would help like with your immersion, really, because like you're playing this character that was built with this world in mind, not necessarily maybe for this world or like to directly, not to a full extent, but to fit in this world. So like it makes more sense why your character is getting into certain situations, maybe, making the decisions they're making, acting the way they're acting because of where they're from in this world or whatever, but there's always those fun kind of one shots or short series ones where you can kind of just go all out.
Right. Yeah. I think our perspective is different too because we do an actual play, and so we're always thinking kind of about the show aspect of it too. But I think this question's like it super depends on the table, right? And the campaign and the story. I think if you're trying to tell like a very dramatic, immersive, Game of Thrones level like political fantasy drama, like you can have any kind of character in that story. You know what I mean? Like, but like things like a Halloween one shot, you might want to have like a more specific thing, and you may all need to be from the same place, like so on and so forth. So definitely just depends. Braden, what you got?
I was gonna say I agree with Hunter and Gossip. Just it helps. It makes it easier for myself to keep the whole setting of the world in mind when making a character.
For sure. And I think at the end of the day, like we said already, like comedy is good, has a place at TTRPG tables, without a doubt. I think it makes the experience 10 times better when you guys can, and everybody at the table is just laughing and stuff. But when you design a character for the campaign, I think you're also helping the story, right? Like instead of working against the story, whether intentionally or not, like you're actively contributing to that narrative in a way. So I think that's pretty dope. All right, last question on this topic. We already kind of said what is the one trait, right, you think makes a good PC. So this is kind of similar question, but in a little bit of a different format. What is the most important part of being a good player character at the table, for your party, for your DM, for yourself? Is it knowing your mechanics perfectly and being very mechanically effective as a character? Is it having strong RP and narrative understanding? Or is it just in general table contributions, helping other people, bringing, if you're playing in person, bringing pizza, like having that extra set of dice, having blank character sheets, being ready to help out when people might have questions about their player sheet, all that kind of stuff. Which of those things is the most important?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I'd say for me personally, it's someone who is really able to step into the shoes of their character and play the role of their character, and really differentiate between what would I do as a person and what would my character do as themselves.
100%. Yep, that's what it's all about. That's when the juicy stuff starts coming out, when everybody at the table is doing that 100%. What do you think, HG?
Before you said that, before you like asked the question, I would have said something very similar to Brayden, which I still think that is very important. But the third option you said, which is basically like taking care of everybody at the table and making sure basically everybody is having a good time, which is the entire point. You know what I mean? I think that's, good people helping people have fun. Boom. You know what I mean? But
It's important, also, right? Like if you have a bunch of experienced players and one newer player that needs help and there's nobody to help them, you're probably not going to have that newer player at your table for very long, I would imagine.
Right.
Y'all need to get out of my head, because that's actually what I was gonna say. I was just gonna say, like, realizing like that you're not the only one at the table, and it's a team effort. And I mean, goodness, there's moments where you get so involved with what's going on that you forget. So it's okay to dial back and realize that you have to pass the baton around the entire table to make it a story. And I think it's very important. People forget.
You're not the main character, you're a main character.
Yeah, we're all a bunch of misfits having a good time. Like, it's gonna be great.
Exactly. So this perfectly segues into another one of our topics, which is sharing the spotlight. And I think this will kind of roll into when we talk about role play as well. But yeah, like talk about how, or I'll say this too. I think like one of the things that makes the best players too is this aspect, which is sharing the spotlight, like knowing when to have your moment and knowing when to let other people at the table kind of have their moment. Like scene economy, like you just said, Goss, like everybody gets a moment with it's like hot potato, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why yes and is really important too, because it kind of correlates with that. Like, if yes anding somebody, like they might have a really cool idea that you don't know about because they just thought of it and they're trying to like initiate this like conversation or like interaction or something that would like benefit everybody because it would make the story better, obviously. Sure. And you just yes and it and keep it going. Like let everybody kind of, you might have a way in your head, but it's improv, baby. So you just got to kind of roll with what you get,
That's a great point too, right? Like it's improv. Like D&D, whether you're doing an actual play or just playing at home with your homies, it is a improvisational experience. You're making decisions in the moment, right? So I think, a lot of really good aspects of improv can be directly translated into great D&D play, like yes and, of course, and like the other one, which is no but, right? But yeah, like you said, like it just opens up so many doors. I think there's nothing worse than watching a player really try and engage with another player at the table or with, an NPC and maybe the DM's just not into it or something and they just kill the conversation or they don't continue that, thread or open up the scene, right? And I think that is another aspect, right, of sharing the spotlight is like learning how to like tee people up,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like setting someone up to do something or say something that that they will shine in.
Exactly, right? Like,
or just giving them a chance to, say there's 4 of us and 3 of us have been talking and doing stuff all the entire, you know what I mean? Like do something in game to not contribute. What is it?
You got it.
Draw them in
to get yeah, I guess I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but yeah, just to let them be drawn.
Get drawn.
Drawn.
So yeah, that's like passing the spotlight kind of intentionally, right? Like with intention, kind of teeing people up. I think a great way to think about it for me would be like, if you have a party full of different classes, like don't be the barbarian that's trying to pick the lock when the rogue is like hasn't done anything in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like let's let the rogue pick the lock.
Yeah,
kind of
I
vibes.
can see that.
Let's let the barbarian stand in the front. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Unless, of course, your barbarian thinks they can do everything.
True.
with an 8 intelligence.
Brayden, you're our campaign's newest barbarian. Thoughts?
Ooh.
He's gonna do just what he needs to get by. Anything else, he'll take some help. Especially if it's free.
He's a survivor.
Yeah, 100%.
Spoiler.
That's
$3.99.
alert.
That's what I feel.
$3.99. I like it.
Yeah, so sharing the spotlight, definitely rolling into like kind of role play, right? Like that's an aspect I think of really good role play is knowing when to let others role play. True or false? Your character needs to have an accent for your role play to be good.
False.
This is a loaded question.
Let me ask.
I
I'm
gotta
going to
go with
reframe
false.
this question. Actually, if you are playing a character that would probably have an accent, I don't know, right? I guess you can make any kind of character you want, so it's hard to say. But like, is it okay for somebody to be like, I'm speaking in an accent and not use the accent, or should they just not have an accent as that character if they can't do it?
I'm going to say, because I've done this specifically,
Okay, yeah.
I feel called out. So I like playing Morga. I was like, yeah, I have a Russian accent. Didn't speak in a Russian accent at first because I was so shy. I was so scared. I'm like, I'm going to totally mess this up. And I've had more fun trying and failing with an accent that it's made the experience so fun. Like, you don't need to do it. It's not necessary. But it definitely adds like a little razzle dazzle. You know what I mean? Like you can, it makes it funny. You can have a comedic value and you can just kind of play into it. And it's so fun. Like now I don't think of playing Dungeons and Dragons any other way now. But it just took, the courage to do that. And that's coming from somebody who's like really shy to try new things. So
Hey, you're killing it. I 100% love Morga's accent, so.
That's hilarious.
thanks, y'all.
I definitely don't think it's necessary to be a good role player because you can role play with any voice. I think. I think you should try it though. I think if you want to do an accent, do the damn accent. And if you're doing it bad, you'll get better. I think there's probably an aspect of comfortability and nervousness that definitely plays a part too. Because I think a lot of people can probably do accents in the mirror, and then when they're in a call or a table in a room full of people, like it gets a little harder.
Right.
You just freeze up a little bit.
I think another thing too about that I want to say is that you don't necessarily always have to. I also don't think it's necessary, but you don't necessarily have to do an accent like from a different like kind of location than where your accent is from. You can always just kind of maybe like change the timbre of your voice or speak a little bit lower, a little bit higher, or maybe just like use vocabulary that you as a person don't normally use. Maybe it's like a little bit more like Renaissance and kind of proper and posh than you are. It's like. I think it definitely helps to be able to, while you're at a table with people, differentiate when this person is their character and when they are speaking as above table as a player. And if your player character has the same voice as you, maybe just say something, I guess. But you can still do that. But yeah, you don't always have to go full blown like, this is like I've been practicing. If you've been practicing a Scottish accent for months, like do that. Even if you haven't, really just do it. But you don't have to do something that's like polished and practiced and perfect and indistinguishable from somebody that's native from maybe said location or what have you. You can always just kind of tweak your voice a little bit and just make it a little bit different from your speaking voice.
I think one of the benefits of being a player character, not a dungeon master, is definitely this. Like, I as a dungeon master, I have to. I mean, you don't have to, I guess, but like not doing different voices as a dungeon master is tough. It's a tough way to DM. I think, like, it's hard to differentiate. It's hard to immerse.
Which person is this? They all sound the same.
Exactly. like I like for my players to know exactly who's talking without me being like, so and so says this. You know what I mean? Like, I like to try and at least have recognizable voices for all my different NPCs, which is kind of tough, but it is part of the game that I love. I practice accents all the time.
Yeah.
RP as decision making. not just dialogue. I love this prompt. It's like what RP is a lot of things, right? But it's not. I think some people think they hear RP and they're like, I need to. That's like an accent, right? Like I'm doing a character, like. But it's also about like how you play that character, right?
Yeah, I think that really goes back to what I was saying about like a good player character is someone who can really step into the shoes of the character they've created in all aspects.
Right, like, and it's also what you were saying, Hunter, about knowing your objective, right? Mm-hmm. Like that doesn't just occur in dialogue, right? You know your objective the second you wake up, and when you're in the bathroom, and when you're in combat. Like,
right. I was gonna say any moment. It's like, what is my character thinking about right now? You know, it could be thinking about what's in the moment, or you could be pondering about a bigger goal or a side goal that you have aside from the party, or you know, like missing a loved one, or you know, relishing in the fact that you're around loved ones, or.
And I think when that gets really interesting is when you, the player, may want to do something one way, but that's not what your character would do, right? And for better or worse, like if you're playing true to that character, that's what you're going to do regardless. And that's kind of, what you got?
I was going to say the exact same thing about that, because like there have been situations where like, I know this is what Gossip Girl would do, but she ain't here right now. This is what Morga's gonna do.
She's not holding a two-hand longsword.
Like it's just knowing the difference and being able to differentiate between being in the head of your character and then what would you do. And I think that's what makes it really, really fun as well, because you know, who doesn't want to, you know, be somebody else for like an hour in the middle of a game and make some decisions that aren't yours. It's just in a game. Like that's so cool. Like, like I don't know.
Yeah, I get to do magic.
That's one of the coolest things about D&D, right? Is it allows you to explore. You know, like I don't know what it's like to have these characteristics, but I'm gonna play a character that does, and I'm gonna feel this whole thing out and see what's up with it. You know, like I think D&D can be therapeutic in that way. Like. You know, really helping you, you know, delve into some stuff that maybe you don't want to think about as your IRL character that we wake up as every day, you know?
Right.
So, good segue into this next topic, how to roleplay flaws without sabotaging the party. I think it's a fine line, right? Because like we were talking about, like you want to make the decision that your character is going to make, but at the same time, you don't want to be blowing up the game.
I have a hot take on this because listen, I can only speak on experience. I didn't do this, but I was in a game where somebody did this. They played so into their character's flaw where they ran away in the middle of combat and they just ran away. And we didn't see them the whole time. We all died. And I was like, that was the worst experience. I cried. I was like, I spent hours making this character. We're all dead. And he's like, hey guys, I'm like, well, nice to meet you. I'm so-and-so. It was really frustrating. But in that moment, it's like, you got to play in your character, but also know of like it's going to affect everything bigger than just playing into your character. And I think it's something that like when you're role playing, it's like I don't know how to describe it exactly, but like playing into your character, but also having respect for everybody else at the table, if that makes sense. Like having respect of that's how they're going to play it. I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z, but I don't want to take up too much, but I want to be true to myself. I don't know if that makes any sense. It made sense in my head.
No, it does for sure. And I think one of the things like I see a lot of, you know, DMs complain about is players that use the words "that's what my character would do" to like blow up the party in the campaign. And what it reminds me of is kind of something that you always want to tell your players or, you know, people that you want to play D&D with is like make a character that wants to be involved in the story, right? And then introduce flaws to that character that aren't going to get in the way of that. That's I think that's what I would say. I think you need to choose your flaws in a way that you don't be in a D&D party and my flaw is every time there's combat, I run away. You know what I mean? That's
so
not
bad.
a good character. I don't think that character would be an adventurer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I think it's a fine line too.
Yeah, I feel like it depends on like the nuance involved too, because it's like one thing where it's like, okay, my character isn't that smart, and then you're posed with a what's 1+1, or we kill the king, and I don't know, it's like, guys, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, just to like mess things up, just to cause chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, even that statement kind of is valid, though. Like, if you just want to cause a little.
I'm gonna write a story that is made for that. I think at some point.
That is just chaotic. Yeah, that'd be sick.
Oh, gosh.
But then, it's like, say you're at the end, towards the end of like a 2-year campaign, and like this character has, character A has a parent or something that's like, maybe against what the general party's, superiors or whatever is, and they kind of like slowly but surely and gradually get like kind of swayed by their parent or something, and then towards the end you're kind of butting heads. It's like my character would do this, but it's like, it's a little bit more gradual, and it's a little bit more nuanced, and it flows with the story, a little less than like, oh, I don't know what 1+1 is, sorry, like, there goes the king, there goes the campaign. My character wouldn't know. It's like, okay. Yeah. And that's a weird random example, but you know what I mean? Just like something like so simple that can kind of be fleshed out a little bit more, not like nuke the campaign. Right.
Like, it's like if you're going to play a character that's intentionally dumb, not an intelligent character, then also incorporate with that character that, okay, I'm going to follow the lead of other people because, you know what I mean? Like, I realize I'm not the mathematician here. Like, let me follow this wizard. Right, like, what is your favorite RP moment that you've ever had? This question is for everyone.
Oh, favorite RP moment ever.
I know mine. I'll go first.
Go first.
This was pre-Side21. It was in the very first campaign I ever DM'd called Waterdeep Dragon Heist. You may have heard of it. And we played a version where the party needed to get basically tickets to a event that was being held for the needy people of the city. And the party needed to go get these tickets from basically a unhoused family in the streets of Waterdeep. And there's a really beautiful moment between 3 of my characters, or the NPCs, which were the unhoused family, a character we had in that campaign called Roro, which was played by Aaron, who is in all of our content, and Hunter's character. And it was just this really, really beautiful moment that occurred between this family in need and the players, where they paid way more than they needed to for the tickets to the event. And on the other side of that coin, Aaron's character was turned into a snake man, and everyone hated him, and he scared the kids, and it was just like this whole thing. And it just like it meshed so nice, and I have thought about that a lot since then. That's definitely my favorite RP moment in any of my campaigns.
I think one of my favorite ones is from the exact same campaign, actually, and it was between Halos and Roro, and it was just a moment where Halos, my character, went into the room where Aaron's character was, and had a moment where they kind of opened up a little bit to each other. And, he shared stuff about his sister, and I, like, my character was, like, a little bit generous towards him and opening up and, like, feeling like he had, like, some friends / family around him for the first time in a long time kind of thing. And, yeah, that was really... Afterwards, I felt a little bit emotional, as it kind of got to me, and it was, like, a fun moment to play and a really beautiful moment. But, yeah, it was fun to participate in that role play with him. In that scene, for sure. I've thought about that a couple times.
Yeah.
Since.
Next.
I will say I've never really done role playing until actually Side21. It was just straight, here's a situation, here's your combat. And so I can only really speak on the jungles of Paldir. And there's one moment in particular that when I think of Dungeons and Dragons now, I think of it and it makes me giggle. Like, so we're all in Banthora and Halbort has a little too much to drink. And I just keep giving him more alcohol. And it's so funny because he falls off of his chair, takes some damage, and then the next day he can't handle the sunlight. So I put him in a pillowcase on my back, carrying him around Banthura, just laughing. You just hear him just going, "Oh gosh." And it was so silly and so funny, but everybody played into their characters so well that it was just one of those moments that when you think of like your party and that experience, like it's just is one of my favorites. I mean, there's so many, but that one still makes me laugh to this day.
Hey, you know, and you're not that new anymore. We've recorded what 17 episodes of the Jungles of Paldir now.
I'm a master now. I'm
About
ready.
An hour and a half. Deep. Yeah,
Yes, you are.
Let's
Brayden,
go.
any RP moments from your times playing D&D stand out to you?
I think in our Christmas one shot, the just kind of overall connection between Lucian and your character actually being polar opposites, but forming a bond and still messing with each other. Moments like that stand out to me and make me still kind of giggle looking back on them.
Yeah, I played a Furbolg ranger, or I was a fighter, but he was range based and lived in the forest, and your character was a very well-to-do, pampered kind of rich boy. So yeah, that was
who had only been outside of his castle for like a year.
Yeah.
that was fun. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was our very first thing that we ever recorded for Side21 was that first Christmas one shot with Hunter Douglas behind the screen. Okay.
I will say real quick, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
another one, and this isn't really a moment, but it was just something that I enjoyed. The moments that came from this kind of thing, and I think it was something that you described this to me as, and I loved it. It was Timber and Vorn's like buddy cop vibe. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it was always like, for whatever reason, these guys just butt heads, but they work pretty well together.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that spawned a bunch of fun moments in Black Hand of Fate for sure.
Yeah, that was our friend Jake played opposite of you in that, and he was that was funner. Very, very, very good.
Good times.
I would definitely agree. Okay, so last thing, and then we're gonna get into hot takes in general. But min-maxing versus playing the fantasy. We cannot talk about player characters without talking about the dreaded min-maxing, the scourge of all DMs, but the bread and butter of all hardcore D&D players. What do you guys think? Min-maxing, good for the table, bad for the table?
I think if it's like talked about before, you know, like say there's like a dynamic where it's like the DM goes to the players and say, hey, I'm gonna give it my all, give it y'all's all. I'm gonna build my stuff out, you know what I mean? Build your stuff out. That's one thing, you know. I'd say more often than not that's not happening, you know, for most players generally. But nah, man, like, you know, just like read the stuff, you know, like don't like go on Google and what's the best, you know, subclass for this and move for this, you know, or whatever, like, you know, just read the spells or read the subclasses and just kind of keeping the theme of the story in mind, if that's what you're, you know, going for, or your character in mind and their background in general, you know, like what would make sense for your character to have, you know.
Right.
Like this spell is really cool and would be really helpful, and you could totally take it, but like I may be in some instances more inclined to take this lesser spell that's not as strong per se, maybe doesn't offer healing or bonus damage for this, that, and the third, but it makes sense because of my character's background. He would have learned this,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he would have been exposed to this kind of thing or gotten this kind of training or whatever, you know. So that's the way I usually look at it when I'm building a PC.
And if anybody's watching and doesn't know, min-maxing is basically choosing the strongest possible stat options, weapons, spells that you can, regardless of whether it like fits your character in any way or not. And so like to that point, I think there's kind of two kinds of min-maxing. One is totally not okay to me, and one is totally fine to me. The kind that's not okay is like what you were talking about. Like if you were playing a wizard that grew up on a snowy mountain in a quaint Christmas village, you are going to know ice and snow spells. You know what I mean? You are not going to know fire spells. Like that does, and I mean, you could write a backstory though where you could maybe you were the guy that brought heat to your village, but it needs to fit, right?
Yeah.
That and so like, having random spells that don't fit your character in any way, shape, or form, I think is lame. I think it takes away from the story. I think it lessens the narrative. It makes it more a game and not a narrative storytelling experience. That's kind of how I think. But on the other side, I think if you're taking the strongest stuff that your character would take, like that's fine. Like you don't have to like purposely, oh, I don't want to take this, it's too strong. But if it fits your character, run it. That's, you know what I mean? Like I don't think, don't pull any punches with stuff that fits your character, I guess.
And also I feel like, if you meta or min-max or perfectly optimize every character, I mean, how many classes are there? That's how many kind of characters you can play, because they might have different personalities, but like they're the exact same move sets, like kind of doing what makes sense for your character and choosing those options makes like each one like that much more unique, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah.
I'd also have to say that's kind of the fun of building a character, is looking through each individual thing and reading it and building it, instead of looking up what's going to be the best online and just copy and paste.
Yeah, I would agree. It definitely takes away from the experience. I think there's plenty of us in TTRPG land that build characters for fun, without any intention of having a new story to put.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, robbing yourself of that experience seems counterproductive for sure. I think that covers min-maxing, unless anybody has any additional thoughts on it. Some of the other points were, optimization is a love language, lol. And suboptimal build is only fun if you're not making the party carry you. I think that to a degree is true. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where you need to make a character that makes sense for the story you're playing in.
For sure.
Yeah.
If you want to be a weakling, find ways to bring that to the table without hurting every scene that you're in. Cool. Well, that pretty much wraps up most of the structure of our little combo today, but wanted to leave a last segment here for D&D hot takes, or TTRPG hot takes. What is an opinion that you may have about D&D or TTRPGs that you think is a hot take?
I'll start us off.
All right.
I don't. Some people are gonna get mad, but I say this based off of experience. You don't need to multi-class multiple times to be a good character. Like for example, I'm playing a paladin, and if you keep going through paladin with the levels, you can be pretty tough, and it's crazy. But when you start adding in extra bells and whistles, you're not as powerful as you think you are. And that's just me. I mean, I played once where I was a barbarian and tried going druid, and I thought it'd be funny that if I sneezed or something, I just would turn into a bear. I was like, that sounds fun. Or whenever I would rage or something, turn into a bear. And I just distracted myself from what I was trying to do, just trying to be funny. And sometimes less is more.
I definitely agree. Less is more. Sometimes I think multi-classing should be left to very experienced players, and
That's not
not your first characters. I think that's kind of how I feel about it. But you're right. Like the more you put into, druid, the less you're gonna have for barbarian. So,
Brayden, what you got?
My hot take is that trauma in a backstory can be a lot of fun, especially when left for the DM to use it against you throughout the campaign. It's one of my favorite things. It is one of my favorite things to do when creating a backstory. So
that's crazy. So my main one was going to also be about backstories, and I think it's like the general, well, maybe not general, I don't know everybody's opinions, but and let me preface this by saying, make whatever character you want to and have fun. You know what I mean? But I know there's like the trope of, oh, my parents passed when I was younger and now I'm here because, I have nobody and, or whatever, this, that, and the third. Boom, now I'm in a adventuring party kind of thing. And, there's like the contrast to that kind of, which is like, a character that has a good upbringing and that, maybe they're just ready to go out into the world now, and then that's how they have to, you know what I mean? But as far as that, I think more trauma. I think more trauma. Because, not that I I like both ways, but I think beautiful heroes can be born from a lot of shortcomings. You know what I mean? Like in life, that's like a compelling reason to fight for something, or strive for whatever it is, whether it's like your character's like growth in themselves, or to specifically get this one item or retrieve the favor of whatever, this, that, and the third, etc. But yeah, I lean towards trauma. Maybe that's not a hot take, but I guess it's a hot take towards people that say that they're tired of that trope, and I'm saying more trauma.
I think there's a lot of versions of trauma. So I think the most common, kind of take in the D&D TTRPG world is, everybody's got dead parents, right? Like everybody makes an orphan character. So, but I think, like, to your point, trauma,
Same.
trauma 100% can be a motivator. It can be something that drives you towards greatness, and heroic behavior. So definitely, I think there's surely a place for tons of trauma in D&D backstories or TTRPG backstories, but maybe people be a little more creative with their trauma. I think might not hurt the TTRPG world.
Fair. Also, Rangers are sick. There, I said it. Rangers are sick. I don't care what anybody thinks.
Get in the comments.
Get in the comments with that one. Come at me. Come after me. It's fine. I love it.
I have to strongly agree with that.
Rangers are sick, man. They get more hate than they deserve. That's my hot take on it.
So here's what I think. I don't think anybody hates, like, the vibe. I think just mechanically in Dungeons and Dragons specifically, they have some shortcomings that those people out there that like to min-max and stuff will tell you all about.
Well, that's okay. Just play a little on hard mode.
That's one. I will say, I mean, this is slightly min-maxy of me. When I built Garion for the OG First Christmas one-shot, I didn't want to be a ranger. I wanted to be a ranged fighter, right? Because, there's just a little bit more sauce in there, like action surge and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the point, right? Like, people make about rangers is like, just make a ranged fighter. It's better kind of thing. But it's like, if you're trying to RP a wilderness expert, you're not going to be a ranged fighter. You're going to be a dang ranger.
Yeah.
So get with it.
For me, for somebody that makes characters typically not based on how optimized they can be, I guess that may be the part of me that doesn't see that, because I don't sit there and study every single ability and how it correlates number wise and do the math and blah 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 and such.
Yeah.
But yeah, come at me in the comments.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I can have a hot take that kind of leans into this. Yeah, I don't think you should think about how strong your character is at all. I think that, there are abilities provided to you, and you should choose those based completely on who your character is, and in no way, shape, or form should anything else influence your decision making, whether it's gear, spells, all that stuff. Like, I think it should be 100% about who your character is.
I think to that point too, like it helps you, like when you earn something, you like appreciate it more rather than if it's just given to you kind of thing. Like same kind of thing. If you put in the work and, maybe do a little bit of reading, study up a little bit, and build this character out the way you want it to be, rather than maybe copy paste something from the internet or something that a friend told you or whatever, then you will, you'll be it'll be easier to be that character in your head, because you made all the decisions for it. You fleshed it out. You didn't just like press the buttons that you saw on a different page or something. So yeah, you appreciate it more. It's easier to be immersed. It's easier to make decisions and knowing what your character would want at any given time, because you built it from the ground up.
We played a one-shot pre-Side21 as well. This was set in the beautiful world of Exandria by Matthew Mercer. You may have heard of him. And we had a player, Jason, at our table, and he played a wizard who constantly had I don't remember what
illusion?
spell it was. It was like minor illusion, I think. Yeah, and he was using it to appear like he was jacked at all times, but he was really a weak wizard. I just thought that was one of my favorite.
at one point my character like hobbled by him and like bumped into him and realized that like
went
his
through the
arms were
muscles.
much or no, maybe it was like a hand on the shoulder, but yeah, basically I was like, something's not right, but I won't say anything. Your secret's safe with me.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was fun.
You were playing a very old man in that story. A turtle.
Yes. Yeah, a turtle.
Eppo. That's what if you join our Discord bot is named Eppo. That's who it's named after.
And that's what it's from. Yep. I'll drop for you.
So here's my hot take, and I think this is scorching hot take. I think combat is the worst part of D&D. I live for roleplay. I live for like mystery and like having to scour a town to find the answers to a question that the party can't figure out. Like that's the stuff that I love. And I like combat, of course. I've run 1,000 encounters at this point, but like I love that stuff. Like the juicy RP moments, the watching a party put something together is chef's kiss to me. So while combat is fun, it is truly my least favorite part of playing TTRPGs. That's my hot take.
That's a hot.
Fair enough.
That's hot.
I feel like combat shouldn't be everything about the campaign. And again, unless you're making a campaign for this exception, of course.
Yeah.
But I think campaign becomes more valuable when it means more, which is what you make happen in the RP part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why is this fight happening? You know, like, what are the stakes for these characters? You know, kind of thing like that. And that, I think that adds a lot of value to combat. Otherwise, it's like, you know, it's a fun part of like a little mechanic game. You get to like kind of like fully flex out like what your character can do in like a short amount of like, you know, sometimes hours of time, but yeah, like a small portion, I'll say, of the story. But yeah, it's much more valuable if it means something to the story itself.
Right. You definitely don't need combat every session. Combat, there should be a reason it's happening. Combat shouldn't just be something that happens every session no matter what. Like, oh, well, you guys, you know, some bandits came out. Like, that can happen, right? But, like, I definitely agree. Like, it should have meaning, and there should be a reason it's happening.
Yeah.
Any other hot takes? Any other wild opinions about what we do?
I don't think so. I think I might get roasted for the what I said.
This guy said he liked Rangers? What the fuck?
Unfollow.
All right. If nobody else, any final thoughts before we wrap up this premiere episode of Side21 and?
Nah, this is fun though, talking about everything.
Heck yeah, I liked it.
Cool, yeah.
More episodes to come for sure. We will get into all sorts of different topics. But that, I think, is going to do it for Side21 and player characters. Be sure you are following us on social media at Side21TV. Check out our merch store at Side21.tv. Join the Discord, like, follow, subscribe, and we will see you next time on Side21. Have a good night.
Bye.